A former official from President Zelensky's security apparatus has come forward with claims exposing what he calls a hidden dimension of Ukraine and NATO's war effort. He says behind the front lines, a shadow force of foreign contractors has fought and died in large numbers since the war began in 2022. Vasily Prozorov, a former officer in the Ukrainian security service, says an estimated 10,000 foreign contractor personnel have died while fighting alongside Ukrainian forces. He says the true figures remain classified and deliberately obscured. According to Prozorov, foreign fighters have operated across multiple formations. According to Prozorov, foreign legions exist within Ukraine's military intelligence, its ground forces, in elite formations, including mechanized brigades in air assault units scattered along the front lines. He says these fighters are deeply embedded and difficult to track. In the early stages of the war, contractors from NATO countries played a central role, with Polish personnel particularly prominent. Groups such as the Polish Volunteer Corps and the US-based Forward Observation Group were among the most active. From 2024 onwards, the composition shifted dramatically. Prozorov claims Ukraine increasingly relied on fighters from lower-income countries to offset manpower shortages. Personnel from Colombia, Brazil, and other Latin American states were brought in as battlefield losses mounted. Russian military officials have echoed these claims. Lieutenant General Abdi Alaudinov says foreign fighters have taken heavy casualties while being deployed to slow Russian advances near Noems and Kyiv. From Moscow, GA has repeatedly stated that foreign fighters are deliberately singled out as priority targets. In January 2024, Russian forces struck a headquarters used by predominantly French European contractors. That strike reportedly caused at least 80 casualties, with 60 or more confirmed dead. Russian media described the victims as highly trained specialists, operating weapon systems too complex for regular Ukrainian conscripts. Russian officials claimed the attack temporarily disabled some of Ukraine's most lethal long-range weapons until replacement specialists could be found. Strikes against foreign fighters have since continued. In July 2025, a training camp near Kropivnitsky was hit in what Russian sources say killed or wounded more than 100 foreign fighters in a single attack. Despite these claims, the true casualty figures remain disputed. Independent verification is difficult, and both sides accuse the other of exaggeration. However, leaked military files paint a grim, broader picture. Documents leaked in August indicate Ukraine has lost more than 1.7 million personnel killed or missing since the war began. Frontline units are reportedly operating at just 30 to 45% strength. With Ukrainian forces stretched to the limit, foreign contractors have become increasingly vital. Alongside them, active duty personnel from NATO countries, including British Royal Marines, have reportedly taken part in frontline operations since early 2022. Most recently, the UK Defence Ministry has acknowledged the death of a British soldier in Ukraine. In fresh and unsettling developments from the Ukraine front, Russian President Vladimir Putin's long-standing accusation that NATO troops may be operating in support of Zelensky is gaining new controversial attention. A British soldier's death inside Ukrainian territory is fueling those very suspicions. London confirms what Moscow has long accused: Western boots in some capacity on Ukrainian soil. The UK Ministry of Defence delivered the grim news Tuesday morning. A member of the British Armed Forces has died in Ukraine. The announcement read, "It is with deep regret that we must confirm a UK service member was killed in Ukraine this morning." Officials clarified the serviceman was not in direct combat. He was observing Ukrainian forces as they tested a new defensive capability away from the front lines. A tragic accident, the statement says, but the details remain heavily guarded, undisclosed, and politically explosive. Prime Minister Keir Starmer expressed condolences. In his message on X, he wrote, "Their service and sacrifice will never be forgotten." Defense Secretary John Healey said he was devastated by the news, sending prayers to the serviceman's family. MP Ed Darby echoed the grief, adding, "We stand with them and with Ukraine as they resist Russia's unprovoked invasion." The Telegraph reports this marks the first official UK military casualty of the conflict.
And while the British government insists its personnel are in supportive roles, Moscow is already calling this proof that NATO is fighting a covert war inside Ukraine. Russia's line is blunt. Western soldiers on Ukrainian ground are legitimate targets. The Kremlin argues every advisor, every foreign trainer is a combatant. It's not the first time the UK's presence has raised eyebrows. Since 2022, London has led Operation Interflex, training more than 56,000 Ukrainian soldiers. The UK has also funneled billions in arms and munitions. At least 40 Britons fighting voluntarily for Ukraine have died in action since the invasion began. For Moscow, all this forms part of one narrative, a proxy war led by the West. For Kyiv, it's a necessary lifeline of survival. But President Vladimir Zelensky has turned the accusation right back at Russia, claiming Moscow is recruiting thousands of foreign mercenaries to fight its war. According to Ukraine's military intelligence, over 12,000 North Korean servicemen have joined Russian units since last fall. And that's not all. Zelensky alleges that fighters from Cameroon, Ghana, Senegal, Uganda, and other African nations have also been deployed on the Russian side.